Cool.
Cool.
So Roberto, you were asking about the islands.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Oahu right now. I'm in Manoa. It's like this very foresty neighborhood. Beautiful. Making you jealous. I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, it's too dark to send you a picture. Otherwise, we turn the camera around. It's going to. I think, David, there is somebody who's trying to get in. Ivan.
Oh, Ivan. He dropped by because he's going to come by at 1 o'clock. Do you know Ivan? Ivan? Do you know him?
Ivan or Ivan? I don't know. If it's Italian,
It's probably
know
Ivan.
him?
He's he runs a thing called I think Tango VC. Is that right? And he actually has a YouTube channel that he's been growing recently. So he's kind of both a VC and a video creator. And so, we're kind of in the video creation space here and noticed that he's doing a lot of stuff there. So I wanted to talk to him about sort of how he's making videos and kind of what his goals are and just sort of understand more of that. So he's not actually here at the moment, but he said he can join around like 1 o'clock.
But from a user experience standpoint, it seems like he's here.
Yeah. We shouldn't have him shown right now. Yeah, that's a bug. Yeah.
So how long have you been working on this?
I guess in various flavors, like, Highlighter as a concept has existed for about 3 years now, but we actually we were hosting these like book clubs and realized that hosting them on Zoom is just like a much better experience. But then we also found that hosting them on Zoom is missing many of these features that we need to like control the way the stream is composed and moderate the chat better. So we actually built this through most of the past year, just kind of to help us do what we were doing on Zoom, but to do it kind of more, more personalized, customized to our needs.
So, and tell me more. So,
well, yeah. So, do you ever use like Zoom for making content, or you mostly use it for kind of gathering for kind of discussions, or?
Actually, for both, right? So we obviously use Zoom as the main internal communication platform because nowadays we are all spread, so we use it. We use obviously, and we've been always using it a lot for interactions with entrepreneurs. Even before COVID, because as you know, Europe is much more geographically fragmented than the States. And actually, it's funny, right? You ask that because I'm in a process now in which I'm designing a little bit of a live content strategy for Twitch.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
That is the reason why I've been spending more time in Clubhouse.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because I'm trying to test different formats and different ideas and all of that.
Right.
We actually going through now. We went through a little bit of I don't want to use the word vendor selection because that would be too much, but sort of a application comparison exercise to exactly figure out what is that we should use for our own video events. And it looks like we might go for Zoom plus Eventbrite.
And how do you sort of think about that, or what works well kind of from that combination for you?
Yeah. So I'm very, very happy to share with you. What's the name? Let me try. I'm trying to remember. So there is. I'm trying to look at you. Jesse, that's what's her name.
Are you looking up a link right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this whole idea actually came because I was, well, obviously a little bit driven by what I've seen it out there. But then I was invited to an event at Imperial College, and they did, obviously right now they're running the whole university remotely, so I was at this event and I was looking at these very interesting ways how they were using Zoom with the breakout room and all of that. So and they actually have a person, believe it or not, that basically the only thing that she does, she runs the Zoom sessions. So I took her as an intern and I asked her to do for us a little bit of a comparison analysis. And, we look at many different things. Also, there is this company in Europe that has been going ballistic in terms of fundraising. I don't know if you know about it. It's called Hopin.
Yeah.
So
they have quite a ramp.
Yeah.
They're London, right? Their hometown.
Yeah. I actually, I missed it. I saw it. I passed on it. Are we recording right now? Sounds like.
A what?
Are we recording or is just live?
Yeah, we're live and we stream out to YouTube, but we didn't invite anybody here. But if you want to share something super confidential, we might do that on the phone later.
No, anyway,
you've got some.
We look at this guy. It was very interesting, long session to be passed, and then we decided. So then we're doing, been thinking about this strategy. We're doing this vendor selection exercise, and the two things that seem to come up as the most interesting combination is actually this company called Hermit.
Oh yeah.
And Zoom. And the way how we've been looking about has been around the attendee participation. So we don't want to do webinars, right? So we want something like the one we have in now, in which you can have a sense of. So I really like actually, for what is worth, the interaction that comes with the Clubhouse, right? Where you have the people can come in. And that process, I would say, it's fairly frictionless, right? I mean, it's easy to do. The problem also, what I really like of the Clubhouse interaction is the fact that you can get to know a lot of information about the person. Because there's touching interface in which you can see the profile, and then there is the links and all of that. And obviously, especially because there is not video, so you can do things, right? So one thing that we like is what we call them the networking features that obviously in Zoom don't exist.
Right. Because Zoom doesn't have any identities or anything.
And so that's why obviously Hermit has got some of those. They actually have got quite interesting, I would say, pre-show social network capability around tables and all of that. So we've been looking at. I've been thinking a lot about the space because obviously you don't need to be a PhD in cybernetics to think that there is a type of interaction is coming from Clubhouse that potentially could be adapted in many different situations, and how you're going to play into all of that and this.
Right.
So it sounds like you are coming from a similar.
Yeah, I think we were also kind of, I wouldn't call it like vendor selection, but we were hosting book clubs, and we have been hosting these for a long time now. And we found that the very best way, we try to.
That I have a bookshop, right? My family business is a bookshop.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No way, that's so cool.
And my sister actually runs a lot of this.
Oh, still today. Oh, wow.
To be honest with you, because obviously she does on Facebook.
She does?
On Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
How she does it, but the book club in her case is usually with a writer.
Yeah.
So she has, right? And in fact, the day in which she wanted to have more of a round table discussion with multiple people, she asked me for a Zoom for a Zoom link, she did it on Zoom.
Yep. So yeah, we kind of did a very similar process where we were hosting. I don't know if you ever were in San Francisco when I was doing the Curious Conversations.
Yeah.
You know those?
Yeah.
Did you come to some of those? Yeah. So that was like all this energy in the room, and we would like, have a featured guest, and then everybody in the audience could participate. And people were saying like, "Oh, can you like record a video or send it via Skype?" And it never felt like quite the right way to adapt that experience. But we did find from that there were a lot of like, book clubs that we wanted to host, and like the people all were kind of reading many of the same books and stuff. So we started hosting book clubs on Telegram, and that was actually like a great way to just like lightweight, get the right people together to discuss something, and it's curated and there's context, and like that worked well. But it also felt kind of thin compared to like what we really thought like a great, an actual book club experience for the in-person live experience that we had, in Curious Conversations. It was just very thin comparing that experience on Telegram. So we started Highlighter with the idea that you could like highlight pieces of media, like from a book, grab out a passage, like, and then share that passage and instigate discussion around those passages. So basically taking like kind of clips or segments of kind of a broader piece of thinking and to clip out or segment out the piece that's very important that you want to actually explore with people. So that was kind of like the whole concept. And then that can happen across, books, websites, podcasts, videos, like anywhere, right? Like the concept is like very general. But what we found, maybe unsurprisingly, is like doing it via text alone is kind of thin when you just have, a bunch of people reading the book together. The magic is when we would invite an author in.
Yeah.
And so we started with Zoom just because we were all using Zoom anyway. And it wasn't in a sense like vendor selection because we're not looking for lots of features. We were using Zoom. And so we invited people in, an author in to discuss a piece of their, a book they wrote, or sometimes even like a deeply researched blog piece. And so that process was like magic. That was back to like the magic that we had when we ran Curious Conversations offline. We're getting all the energy and ideas exchanged, and it was just like tons of action, right? That was what we wanted. But we found that like, Zoom, for all of its benefits, we didn't want to run webinar mode. So similar to you, we don't want it to be we're presenting something. It's not like we're interviewing the author. It's the community interviewing the author. But when you do that in Zoom, you have like this grid, and it's like 5 columns and 4 rows, and the author is in like, column 4, row 3, and you're like, no, this is our featured guest. We want to feature, like right now I'm featuring you, right?
Yeah.
Because you're our featured guest. Like Misty and I show up every day. But if I had something to say, maybe while I'm talking, I would switch it like this. So I switch the camera. So now I'm the featured speaker at the moment. And then when it's time to hear from Misty, we can really easily make her the featured speaker. So you can do this with, with Zoom, you actually have just like a consistent grid that doesn't give you as much configurability on the video creation unit that you're doing.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things so what we were doing is we record the video on Zoom, we stream it out to YouTube live from Zoom, but the thing it streams is this grid that we don't like. So then we would go hire a videographer. He would like take all the raw footage from YouTube and Zoom recordings, and then he would piece it together and create a featuring, almost like this composition. And he would turn our video from Zoom into something like what we have here. But it cost thousands of dollars. It was so expensive. So we used Zoom plus that to like figure out the format that we want. And then once we got the format, we actually built the platform to support the kind of format that we want. And so that's kind of all of the details around this just come from our experience creating in this format and knowing that we want. The other thing that is probably not as obvious yet, if you're kind of, when you're new to this.
Change the focus, meaning the fact you highlighted the speaker, can I decide who is the highlighted speaker? So there is one highlighted speaker that is for everybody the same.
Yeah, so the way we think about it is there's a host. In this case, I'm the host. I created the session.
Okay.
And so I have like creative control over it.
Yeah.
Now, we do have features coming where I could say, look, I'm too busy to work the camera, so I'm going to give Mishti control of the cameras. Or I'm going to give Roberto control of the cameras. So we actually, and we also can do a bunch of automation there to make it much simpler and make good decisions without us having to intervene. And we can just like layer in our own decision making if we don't like the way the machine figures it out. But today it's more manual. But yeah, we think of it very much as like the person is the host who instigated the conversation, invited everybody together. That person really is creating a video. Yeah, we don't even think of it necessarily as like an event, but we think of it as like video creation. And it just happens to be that happens at an event.
Okay. And when I click on you, if I click, I have this window that pops up, asks me to follow you. It said you have some followers, you have some following. But I follow you for what?
So if you wanted to know subsequent times that we are making videos, then now we don't do this today because we're still, like you showed us a bug over the weekend, right? We're still trying to
I get it.
Polish all that. You mentioned this UX bug right now that Ivan is showing here below, right? So we still have a bunch of those things we're polishing. So today, if you follow me, you won't hear back. But soon enough, once we have more polish, then when you follow me, you'll get an email and it'll say, okay, DK is now, hosting and come join if you want.
But basically the concept is the format, if I understand, is going to be you're the host, you invite the people, and it's more a round table thing, right? Everybody will be part of this video experience.
Well,
how do you manage 10 people speaking at the same time and things like that?
Yes, we don't compose. It's a good question. We don't compose the video stream. The way we set it up, we built all these templates, and the video stream at max can have 6 people in the video stream. So we're really focused on like creating the video and having like the author creative control of what shows up here. Now, other people can join. Like if 10 people join, maybe you can see like right below the video, there's that section we call the front row. And in the front row,
that's where do I see today? I see Ivan there. Is that right?
Yep.
So that's the front row.
Yeah.
So those are the participants. So people that are watching you.
Well, those are people who are kind of like, call it like VIPs almost. They're people who are maybe Ivan is going to join the video stream soon. Okay, but maybe he's still configuring. He has to configure his video, make sure the lighting is good. Okay. That takes some time. So
you don't have the concept of a passive viewer, i.e. somebody that is watching the video but doesn't want to be part of the video.
Yeah. So you can do that. So you could be an audience member only.
And how do I do that?
You just show up. You just have a link on the web. You just show up.
And how do I see the audience?
So if you see in the upper right, there's a participants tab. Yeah. In the participants tab. Now, accidentally today, it looks like Ivan is in the audience. He's not, so he doesn't have a green dot. He's actually offline, but he visited the room.
Okay.
So, pardon the bug. We'll fix that. But
where we see the audience.
This list, you see the whole audience here.
In the audience, if somebody is going to ask a question on the audience, how does he do? Oh, shit.
Well, there's the chat. So people, like when we host Zooms, people are typically asking a question in chat, and we moderate the questions through chat. So we look at all of the stuff that's tied to all of the questions, and then we say, oh, this question is really good. Sometimes we invite that person up to go ask the author the question directly, but sometimes we actually just read the question because it kind of is self-contained enough and it's too much process to, bring somebody up, introduce them itself. It's more like an existing part of the discussion. So we actually invite people from the chat sometimes into the stream, and then sometimes we just read it. But the point is the chat is like a way that like audience can participate without showing up in the video stream.
So the chat can participate everybody, including the audience. But you, as the host, you can take somebody from the audience and bring it to the video stream.
It's close to that. Yeah, there's a slight nuance I'll add, which is this chat. If you open it to the internet, you actually can get spam and troll, behavior.
Yeah.
So we have built chat so that it's in the taste and trust network of the host. And we have special mechanisms. It's not visible to you in this version of the system. We have special mechanisms so that the host can, extend their trust through the chat. And then the open internet can participate without muddying up the chat, and then we can invite people in when they have interesting things to say.
Okay, interesting.
So yeah, it's all kind of part of how we manage and operate the shows.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of sometimes it's a little bit of heavy lifting. Like Mishti and I organize these together. So we're working on like simplifying some of these actions and automating some of them to help us share the load better.
And which type of shows do you guys do right now? Is still book mostly, or you do also other things?
Yeah, we've sort of we definitely started with authors and book clubs, and I think authors have given way to bloggers or Substack newsletter writers, a different type of author, right? But then we also have had just other people show up who have interesting things to talk about, and sometimes we just talk about whatever's on their mind. Like right now, this is a perfect example. You actually have an opinion about video tools. So we're learning from your opinions about video tools. That's actually really interesting to us, maybe interesting to you, hopefully. Maybe we can be helpful to what you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So we designed it around this use case of the kinds of show we're running, but then we also have been, Mishti and I know every day we do noon Pacific, and we usually go for an hour or two. And we host what we call Lunchbreak. And it's kind of us typically reading Twitter and sharing links of like our favorite tweets. Like, oh, did you see this one? Did you see this one? And then, oh, did you follow this account? You should check this one out. So you can see like Mishti shared Evan's Twitter link right there. So if you want, you could click on that.
Where was the chat? Okay.
Yeah, if you're in the chat. And so you could learn about Evan. You could click him, follow him.
Got it.
And so it lets us kind of
call it highlighter. When I think about highlight, that was Paul, the previous company.
It was what? Oh, oh, right. It was like GPS highlighting, right?
Highlighting very funny situation. And Mishti, oh, look, but this is me. I think it's something going on.
I think maybe your focus. Sometimes if you put your finger up, it'll refocus. Try putting your thumb right in front of it.
Yeah.
There we go.
And Mishti, what do you do? What do you focus on?
Everything. She's muted, but I'll tell you, Mishti does everything. Mishti, we can't hear you. I think maybe I'm muted, but I think maybe her headphones. I think maybe her headphones were not connected or something. So, Mishti, she's she does everything from like product to show running to she's like on-air personality with me when we do our lunch breaks.
Who does the coding of this?
We work with a team kind of all over the world.
Sorry, the internet might not have been great outside.
Okay. Yes, so sorry.
No, sort of all sorts of things. It's been interesting to just see it evolve from book highlighting to basically like we call it participatory TV shows in someone's browser. That's basically what's going on. So we've been hosting all sorts of different events from like formal to casual and just figuring out
involved since the very beginning with David on this?
No, I actually joined last June.
Okay, so relatively recent event.
Mm-hmm.
Did David tell you that I was trying to convince him to start a Uber before Uber? He said
Really?
he was not very he was not sure it was a good idea.
Wow, I didn't know that. This would have been a different story then.
Yeah, we have the emails. You know that Ariel and I too. So we actually met originally through Ariel, right? Is that right? Or no? Maybe through I think through Ariel, or maybe Kevin, maybe because you were involved.
Yeah,
but no, Ariel.
No, Ariel, I think.
Okay, but I still have like this email from Ariel titled "The Rides Idea."
That's wild.
Yeah, we had interviewed the guy who was building Cabulous. Do you remember Cabulous?
I remember that the whole idea, the reason why we were discussing all of this was because of something completely unrelated, but there was this company in Europe that was called Just Eat that was doing delivery of food.
Oh, yeah.
The whole concept was, I really liked the CEO, and he basically has this idea that it was making a lot of sense because the supply was very fragmented. And that's very interesting. And then the concept of marketplaces was still at the very beginning, right? So we just think, okay, which other businesses could be created with a very fragmented supply? Taxis.
Yeah.
I say, maybe. Anyway, so that's funny. But look, I mean, obviously, this space, I think it's way far from being done, right? There is obviously a lot. I look at
the taxi space.
No, I was talking about this video component. Sorry, I was
right.
Apologies. And I've done an investment that didn't work out on the gamers side, so streaming for gamers. Obviously, Twitch is such a powerhouse in that space that is very complicated to deal with. But I think the beautiful thing of Zoom is that has shown that the infrastructure works. And now there is the whole question around, okay, so what is going to happen? For example, I was talking to these guys that they are doing similar to you, if you wish, a vertical solution, right, for doctors. Where, the whole concept is, well, you're a doctor, you want to have a quick discussion with your patient, but, you don't want the patient to download things or use an app or that, right? But still, but you want to integrate it with your CRM, so you don't really want to use WhatsApp of something similar because you want all of these things integrated.
Right.
And, they're originally from Oslo, but they're actually getting some interesting traction in Germany. But the interesting thing was that his view of the world is that we are going to see a lot of vertical solutions. This is an example of that, right? It's a verticalization.
You're saying this?
Now,
this is an example, or the doctor one is?
Yeah, highlighter too, right? Because at the end, you're trying to. I think what you're trying to do is a verticalization into a certain type of events format, right? So I guess the question is, I have a couple of questions. First, number one is, are you actually running the video streaming platform here? Is it that yours, or you're using some API or somebody else?
Oh, we use a bunch of different APIs. So I would think about what we're building as a video streaming service, but we're solving UX around video streaming and not
verticalization, right? But the web, but the platform, let me say the platform level. What are you using for the actual video streaming? Twilio or something like that?
Yeah, which one? Hello?
Are you using Twilio? What are you using?
Oh no, we use a mix of different vendors for different features because there's a lot to make the whole experience work properly. It's not like a website in front of one provider. It's actually using
Streaming, what are you using?
well, video streaming. We use Agora for the stage management, and then we use Mux for kind of broad distribution. So we kind of think of it as like two phase. One is real time, and the other is like on a slight delay. But
So
James Chen, by the way, right?
I don't think I do.
Is that he's fun? He's with Bloomberg Beta. Is it right if I invite him up?
Yeah, no, of course not. Go ahead.
You guys should meet anyway. He's a good dude. Also in kind of venture and early stage stuff. So you guys would have a lot to talk about. Hey, James.
Hey.
Let's see if this works. Does this work?
Yeah.
Hello.
Can you hear us okay?
Yep.
Okay.
I rudely texted DK while he was in the middle of this. And so now I had to drop by and apologize.
So James was asking me, he's like, how do I know when you guys are doing highlighter sessions? Because we don't email out anybody. We just, we keep it just our little thing for now. But if you text me while we're in a session,
you can join too.
Right?
If I would know that I can text you, I guess I would know enough that I could just join it.
Yeah. You might imagine that like someday in the future we would email people when we're beginning. Maybe once we get some more bugs.
Sounds like a very advanced feature.
Yeah, you're talking about this video streaming technology. What about email delivery technology?
Notifications. Can you guys hear me, by the way?
Yeah, all good.
I have a telephone icon that's red. What does that mean?
Yeah. That icon will change soon.
That's basically to leave stage. So if you wanted to get out of the live stream, you could use that.
It's to hang up.
Yeah.
If this were like a Zoom video call, it's hang up from the call. But it's not really the right way to describe leaving the video stream. So we actually have a new icon. I think it'll show up actually by tomorrow. So if you come to Lunchbreak tomorrow, you'll see an entirely new icon, and there'll be more features live.
Hanging up as a metaphor is hilarious because nobody else it dates you, right?
Right. That's what I said too. This has been a contentious issue. I've been concerned about using a phone metaphor because it is. I mean, even that phone is not like a mobile phone in your pocket, right? That phone is like a phone that's wireline connected to like an outlet that, I think last time I touched one of those was 20 years ago, right?
Probably. Yep. See, she's never seen a phone like that in her life.
Yeah, that's true.
Mishti, have you been to the Computer History Museum?
No.
There was a time in which you had to go to the phone. The phone was not with you. It was a very strange time.
Did you ever watch?
I didn't have a phone until I was like in high school, but my sister got a phone when she was like 9 years old. So people have passed me as well. Yeah.
Have you ever watched Stranger Things, the Netflix TV show?
Oh, so yeah.
It's like they filmed it recently and it's set in the 80s. And just the funny thing about it is they had to teach the actors who are, like teenagers how to use a rotary phone because they didn't know how to,
I was up if you see somebody from...
I always thought they were funny because they just had like that little hook to stop your finger, but it was not otherwise connected to where you started or stopped. So I used to, I think my grandfather had a rotary phone. And so I would go to his house and try to like play with it to get the thing to turn around just to the point of the click without using my finger to see if it still worked. I'm like, can I break this thing?
You see,
and that is why you got into software. that mindset.
Right.
On the contrary,
Can I break this thing?
Because when I grew up, there was exactly that type of thing. But the problem was also that you were charged to the nose by the local telecom operator. I grew up in Italy. So every 2 months, there was the bill coming from the telecom operators. And that day, you didn't want to be at home. So every basically 2 months, we had my dad putting like a locker on this rotary phone so that you could make the numbers. So every 2 months, the first 10 days of the following 2 months, we had this locker. And the funny thing was, he obviously was convinced he was putting his locker, and we obviously disassembled it, and basically doing all the rotation without, we had the whole system, and my brother, my sister, and I. So at some point, I think he realized every time around day 11 that if there was the locker or not, we would make a phone call in the same way. So he was removing the locker. And then we were getting the bill. And then we were back to the locker. This process going on.
I think versions of that have continued. I remember being so nervous in middle school. Like, my dad would be like, why did you send like 2,000 text messages last month? Like, who are you talking to? And then I got busted for like talking to boys. So it still exists.
Now it's data, right? Like, how much data do you have left in the month?
Yeah.
If kids are, James, do you let your kids watch video on their mobile phones?
They do watch video on their mobile phones, but they watch
Wi-Fi?
YouTube mostly on their laptops.
Okay.
But remember,
you don't have a household.
They don't go out now, so it's not like they're using the cell phone data plan. I think we could, but we do consistently use more than 1.2 terabytes a month on our home setup because we have basically 3 to 4 people on video conference all day long. On
your home, meaning on your wireline internet.
Our Wi-Fi, yeah.
How do you actually get? How do you get the report of that? Is that like the cable company tells you? Xfinity tells me whenever I go over 1.2 terabytes. Oh, that's like your cap. They send you a nastygram.
Terabytes. How many hours of videos? Yes. That's what they want to know.
I apologize. I have to go now because only because this is funny. I'm getting a message from
Min. Hi.
Min has joined us for Highlighter before.
You're looking at David King.
Hi, DK.
Hey, what's up, Min?
And Roberto. Okay. I'll see you guys. Bye-bye.
We'll see you guys later. Yeah.
Hi,
pleasure.
Now, how do I exit the stage? That's the real question.
Asked and answered.
That was so funny. Wow. Yeah, like perfect example. He just kind of came in, joined our stream. That was great.
Yeah.
All right, guys. You are between me and Dina. It's 8:40 p.m. here, and I'm starving.
Okay.
Not restaurants for me. we can cook something. What's the situation in the Bay Area? Shops, restaurants, are they open or closed?
Yeah, they just reopened outdoor dining. So there's, they've been very closed down for many months. And then I want to say like last week, I think it was, last Monday or so, they opened outdoor dining. Mm-hmm. So now if you have like a parklet with the little canopy and heat lamps and stuff, you can actually, serve, operate like a restaurant. And it's, it's nice to get back. If you haven't been to dining in a while and then you go, it's nice, everything's taken care of and it kind of reminds you.
You discover things you gave for obvious. And,
you rediscover it, yeah.
But look, sounds cool. I think I will think more about it. Again, it's something that I actually am thinking for you.
Yeah, we'd love to hear, as you're thinking about it, what you need and what you want. And if this thing fills some of the, if it serves some of the need, we'd love to help you be a creator with us.
Yeah.
So yeah, just super, we're here for you. Let us know.
Okay. Sounds cool. Ciao, guys. Have fun.
Okay. Ciao.
Bye.
Thanks, Roberto.
Bye. Bye.
All right. That was fun. A little
Yeah.
impromptu visit from James.
Yeah, that was amazing. Got our first foreign guest
he
from
like he just
overseas.
like he was just talking to me about he was just texting me about actually about Min. He'd mentioned something about Min and how they were talking about us the other day. And then uh yeah, and then I said, yeah, let's chat about this. But we're on a highlighter live right now. And he knows,
Yeah,
kind of how we work. So
that's amazing.
it was very serendipitous. But yeah, I think we do have to, at some point, I don't know if, I guess we have to get these, I think we have to get these, bugs worked out, like our login
Yeah.
bugs and any uncertainty around there and some of these other things before we start emailing people out about the sessions because
hmm
it can cause problems. But
Yeah,
otherwise, we're probably not too far out from that, right?
I mean, in my mind, that's the main thing, the login bug, because we're going to have
Mm-hmm.
multiple hosts. So I really think
Yep.
there's no need to wait for anything else beyond that.
Yep.
It's all kind of nice to haves and will trickle in the next few weeks anyway.
Yep. Yeah, we haven't talked about that as a broader team yet, but that's probably a worthwhile thing to note. Kind of how and when we're going to do our more liberal about our emails.
Yeah.
So I think I saw Roberto liking. Did you actually take? Oh,
I didn't. I
Stranger
just
Things.
put a screenshot. I didn't. I didn't take a highlight in time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We're talking about Stranger Things.
Yeah,
Have you heard of it or no?
I've heard of it, but I'm like helplessly just out of the loop on TV and stuff.
Oh yeah. Did I tell you about my TV allergy?
No.
It's actually it's sort of like fitting that we're working on Highlighter as basically like a interactive TV because my whole life I have had like this I'm like a TV movie narcoleptic. And what I mean is no matter how good the show is or great, the content is this amazing thing. Somehow when I get into this like lean back passive experience with TV, I just fall asleep, almost like anytime. It's like almost reliable that I can do it. And Jen's like, why are you falling asleep? It's like 8 p.m. It's like, well, you turn something on the TV. I'm just sitting here.
Yeah.
I think what it does, I like disconnect from other things I might actively be thinking about enough to be able to fall asleep, but I'm not engaged enough with the TV. But then there's like one hack or trick, which is if it's about like music and I'm like participating with the show. Like we were doing this last night. We were flipping through YouTube and like like very active listening and like commenting on the stuff. Then I'm just wide awake.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense.
Yeah. So it's good now we have more participatory TV.
Yeah, totally. Active versus passive learning.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in the learning context, there's, certainly, that same feature is going to lead towards more and better learning.
Yeah.
I like, so as far as Twitter link sharing, I was going to share one that popped up for me today that I thought was funny. Look at that.
Oh my God.
What a setup.
What? Wow.
Actually, we should have, well, maybe we'll talk to James some other time, but James has like a deeply researched and constructed setup. Like maybe even more extensive than Gary Tan. I hate to say it, but maybe more extensive than Gary Tan.
Wow.
He actually has a teleprompter so that he can look right into your eyes while seeing your screen.
Really?
James is, yeah.
Wait, what kind of videos is he making? Or are these just for like calls with?
Yeah, it's just for hanging out. Like he was just on with us, probably using that rig. He was. I think he was on Leonard's thing, wasn't he? Didn't he come by Leonard's?
I can't
I
remember.
thought I saw him at Leonard's. So yeah, he showed me this rig, and basically, like right now I can look at my camera, but then I can't see you. And when I look at you, I don't know if you can see, my eyes are a little bit off the camera.
Yeah.
But he's like projects it through so that the mirror gets your eyes directly into the camera, and when it works, it's it can be magic. So
Wow, that's very high tech. I want to see that one day.
yeah, but I think this one that Ryan Peterson shared looks pretty sophisticated, but I don't think he has like the teleprompter thing going, because you can see, he doesn't have a mirror capturing the.
Yeah, multiple webcams, so it looks like.
Yeah, that actually might be nice to be able to change up shots. Like I don't like my second shot here, but I'm going to switch to it just to play with it. Here's my second shot. Feels so awkward.
Was that
did
the
that actually
side
work
one?
okay? Yeah.
I actually don't think I saw it on my end, but you saw it on your end. You switched to this.
Oh right, no,
shot?
You're right. Okay, if I'm going to switch to the side shot, then I have to.
Okay, now I see it.
Now I'm in the side shot. I didn't save it. But this is like a very awkward shot. That's like a awkward place to be sitting. And then if I go back to,
I kind of like it.
Doesn't it get washed out by the dark?
Oh, lighting notwithstanding, but it's kind of like, oh yeah, you're just sitting next to your friend as they're reading Twitter.
The weird thing is,
I'm watching
your face
you
is
Twitter.
over here. No, yeah. I'm like looking into that camera, but your face is over there. Yeah. So if I actually look at you, then it's totally off, right?
Well, unless we both had it, and then we'd be looking at each other.
But I'll have to get, someday maybe I can get the sophistication of James and his setup.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
So what else?
What else has been
happening on Twitter? Oh, they have this. Do you know this guy Brad Flora? I don't recognize the name, but it looks like he's announced that he's joining Y Combinator as a group partner. And it looks like it says, today we're celebrating some of the people who make our batch program, our Series 8 program, work at a start and YC continuity successful. So I'll share that link. Not sure. Oh, I guess they did overall promotions at YC. So he's a YC group partner. So after 3 batches as a visiting group partner, Brad Flora is joining YC as a group partner. Brad was a co-founder and CEO of Perfect Audience, an ad network funded by Y Combinator in 2011, acquired by Marin Software in 2014, used by companies like Eventbrite, Atlassian, and New Relic. Active angel investor, occasional contributor for Slate.com. Yeah, so I don't know what a group partner is. Is that somebody who helps give like group feedback or something?
Not sure. I'm just looking at it now.
I thought maybe it was part of this. I saw they just did a promotion of Series A program director, and I've always thought that that's an interesting place for Y Combinator, because Y Combinator has historically been this seed firm that kind of opted out of a lot of the Series A stuff to not create any signaling risks, and then they would sort of later do larger check growth equity type stuff, maybe Series C or beyond. And then I think but there's just, it's so obvious they have so much network and value they could contribute at the A. So it always seems like they could and would do more of this. I know they'd sort of begun this program several years ago, but I hadn't heard the latest update on like, are they doubling down, or what parts of it are they working, and how they sort of thread the needle on the kind of their seed program and the A and the later stage.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. If they'll become sort of like a cross stage type firm at some point.
Yeah.
Or just do more of that. I thought this was interesting, but I didn't read it yet. Did it come through in chat?
Not yet. Let me flip. Oh yeah.
Back to being the lead PM of Twitter. But I haven't read the piece yet, though.
I haven't read this either. I do feel like I have seen some tweets where people were saying something about how Twitter is overhauling their business model. So maybe this is relevant to that. Which
maybe
I assume
they've been listening to Lunchbreak. If Twitter stops doing ads, we should get some credit.
Yeah. So should we read this one? This is Packy McCormick. I guess we're becoming big Packy McCormick fans here.
I know. We just talked about him last time.
We were talking about Senius on Friday, right? And then I was recommending his Senius article to Jen over the weekend because I think that in a sense, Renaissance Collective has flavors of being like a scene for people who are creating in this new way.
Yeah.
So I found myself recommending Packy, and now here we are again reading Packy. So
yeah, totally.
All right. So we've got the link to how Twitter got its groove back is the actual piece here, right? That's the one we're reading. And is this paywalled or no? We can read the whole thing. We can read the whole thing. Cool.
Are you just reading it now?
Yeah, so the dumb but plausible bull case for Twitter. I just got through I guess I was reading his little intro before.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Let's see what
he has a link that says click here to read the full post online, but I thought that's what I'm doing.
Oh yeah. And that just goes to like an error page for me.
It does, when I click it, it doesn't do anything. It just gives me a click back. Okay. Anyway, it looks like the piece is here, so you can read it here.
Yeah.
So the overall, I guess, is that the market cap of Twitter is just tiny compared to the value it creates in the world. Lowest market cap of any public tech company it uses every day.
Should I stick it in a Google Doc?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
But
I guess we'll miss all of he has all these cool illustrations and graphs and stuff and comics.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes they transfer. Let's see. Wow, this is a long one. Must have taken a lot of work. Okay, I'm sharing the link to the doc.
Got it.
Okay, now I'm going to start reading this.
Oh, yeah. We got the images, too. Good. I wasn't going to be able to read it unless we had the images. Yeah, the Snap one people have been talking about a lot in the last few days. I think they're nearly worth $100 billion today, whereas at one point people felt they were kind of left for dead with, Facebook launching stories in every type of segment.
Yeah.
I think Facebook, with stories that did put some headwinds in, but I think it's not, certainly not killed the business. In fact, I think it just helped Snap double down on their core demographic.
Yeah. Narrative investing. Isn't that what we talked to Tomas about?
Yeah. It takes advantage of the collective narrative bias of the market. And I mean, this is almost like a bigger, it's more relevant today than ever, I think, narrative investing. Like somebody was tweeting this morning. So I was reading Twitter outside of Lunchbreak. Who was tweeting this? Somebody was tweeting about how Reddit is so narrative driven that if it went public today, it would be worth $100 billion because it is like the originator of memes, and it is itself kind of a meme.
Yeah.
That sort of this narrative driven world would richly reward Reddit, which I think otherwise is not, I think it struggles as an ad business, but I think as a interesting, piece of the internet universe, it is, extremely unique in what it represents.
Mm.
Who was saying this? I want to say it was it Siki Chen maybe? I don't know.
What was the Reddit? I saw some post about the Reddit Super Bowl ad also.
Oh, this was,
shared
actually. I shared this at our global think this morning. So this was actually a bit of genius if you didn't see it. Super Bowl ad, I think it cost something like $1 million per 6 seconds. It's like, the highest ad rate, kind of for video in the world. And I think what I heard they did is they launched this genius unique campaign where they bought 5 seconds of airtime and they showed a placard with a bunch of text on it during that 5 seconds, knowing that somebody would capture that, share it on the internet, and it would become an interesting moment that it's almost like a hack that Reddit didn't buy a full 30-second spot, but they still got a Super Bowl ad and they got their message out because of distribution on the internet, which I thought was a pretty
That's
clever.
pretty cool. Yeah.
So that was kind of the Reddit, and actually I should find this, we're going to talk about it, I should find the Reddit Super Bowl ad. Yeah. Wow, this actually worked is the title of the ad. I'll share the link. There's the link in chat. So they say, if you're reading this, it means our bet paid off.
Oh, wow. So did it mostly circulate on Twitter and stuff?
I think so. I mean, I'm sure it must have been big on Reddit too, but yeah. I think, it's probably most valuable to them to have it getting circulated on Twitter. This one, I just searching, the top one I pulled off had 5.1 thousand likes. I'm sure this, 1,500 retweets. I'm sure it's all over the place.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. But yeah, I guess on the narrative investing point, I couldn't find the tweet that I was thinking about, but on the narrative investing point, I think the example of things getting outsized value or valuation relative to their peers because they own or control an important narrative in the world is a pretty interesting one.
What does he mean? It's what would have happened with Slack before Salesforce saw the potential and snapped it up. Do you know what he means about changing the narrative?
I would have to speculate. There's this Slack the Bulls are typing. I haven't read that, so he might be referencing something specific he was addressing there. But my understanding is kind of, going into pandemic, that Zoom was off the charts with excitement from everybody as like a pandemic stock, and then I think Slack, surprisingly, I think was not getting the same attention. And I don't know if it was actually. Why don't we just look right now if we can still get stock quotes for? I think Work was their ticker. So yeah, if you look at their 1 year, I wish I could share an image right now. I guess I can't. If you look at their 1 year, it's kind of, Feb 2020, it's just kind of bouncing around, some ups, some downs, but kind of did nothing until the Salesforce announcement in like November. And, meanwhile, Zoom, had huge advantage from, kind of had huge tailwinds from the pandemic. So my guess is he's talking something about that, how, people weren't able to get excited about Slack.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I'm not sure why. I mean, Slack seems like it should be so obviously a benefactor of the pandemic. Maybe not as much as Zoom, but.
Oh, and he had a past piece about Twitter as well, fixing Twitter by recognizing what it really is and capturing the value it creates. That's from July.
Oh, I didn't catch that one. What was that one about? It's just capturing the value that it creates. So is that the if I wrote the tweets?
Yeah.
But we haven't read that. So I'm guessing it's like some direct pay proposal.
Focus on its power users. Yeah.
Yeah, they missed TikTok. They should have been TikTok.
Which part are you at? Are you still on the original?
I'm on the if I ruled the tweets.
Oh.
It's quite long, but I'm kind of skimming. I guess the main thing is he's saying it feels like it thinks it's more like Facebook and it really should see itself more as LinkedIn. But I'm not sure what that means from kind of a product or business perspective. He talks about writers capture value in the form of free or paid subscribers. Substack captures value in the form of new paid. Twitter captures almost zero value. So he's kind of, I think he's sort of pitching the Substack idea that Twitter should be their own Substack.
Twitter thinks it's an ad product, but it's a subscription product. It thinks it's an aggregator, but it's a platform.
Yep. Build Twitter Plus, a subscription product for creators. Talks about bookmarking, note-taking, and network thought, which is kind of Roam-like. Better search, including like DMs and bookmarks and DMs that work, comment CRM. So yeah, I think these are all, topics that, get spitballed around a lot. Build a standalone podcasting app. And I'm skeptical of standalone podcasting apps.
Oh, interesting. This is from that. Keep the current Twitter product free. Charge its customers for advanced tools.
Yes, I think the if I ruled the tweets piece seems to make, I think very reasonable arguments about very reasonable big businesses that Twitter could build an approach. So yeah, I don't find a lot to disagree with there. But I think a lot of these are, it's almost like a curation of many of the, I think, the best ideas that get bandied about on Twitter. I'm not sure. Maybe the packaging of it is new here. Okay, so then I guess if we go back then to the current piece, it's really more, I guess it's really more about the business of Twitter if they did some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Mentioned super peer functionality. Do you know super peer?
Mm-mm. Are you on the first article or the second?
Sorry, I guess I'm back on the first.
Yeah, me too.
Back over to it.
I'm in the French Polynesia part right now.
Okay, you're actually reading it. I kind of skimmed. I skimmed. If you search for super peer, that's where I am. Super peer is kind of this one-to-one, book time to do a one-on-one video call with somebody, and then they charge a rate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think it's kind of for
using that.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Make profiles incredible places to hang out. Twitter profiles are the most underdeveloped real estate on the internet.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. I mean, it does seem like if you're a substantial broadcast platform and you have this space where people could invest more heavily in their identity and in showcasing who they are and what they care about and what they're creating today, being that kind of profile on the internet is kind of unsolved.
Mm-hmm.
And Twitter seems like it is well positioned to attempt to do that.
Yeah.
And the more that people invest in building out their profile, the better easier it is for other people to learn about people on Twitter, and the easier it is to figure out who to connect to. And so, you can probably create more density among a graph there.
Okay, this part is suggestions where I am right now.
This is 59 pages. I have to catch up. You know what page you're on? Or can I follow you? Oh, I can't. Okay. Just like in Figma. Okay, so we're both here. Revamp user verification and build Twitter Plus, a subscription product for creators. Twitter Create should be the place they go to build subscription businesses. So is he proposing basically to be, I guess Memberful is like a subscription monetization engine. So is he saying like be the profile and payments, and then if other services build out various utilities and tools, they can depend on that centralized kind of payment hub and payment relationship?
Wait, say that one more time.
I think what he's saying here, when I read this, I see products for creating, sharing, and monetizing ideas. Twitter is the place that creators go to grow subscription businesses. So if you're growing a subscription business on Twitter, he's saying Twitter Create, which is, I think, his idea of a hypothetical new Twitter product. Twitter Create should be the place that they go to build subscription businesses. So today, I would describe what happens is you go to Twitter, you have a fairly minimal profile. You may learn about somebody's Substack. You learn about them a little further through their Twitter profile, but you mostly go to their Substack, and then you build a payment relationship with that person who you might have discovered
instead
on Twitter.
Instead of holding that in to Twitter itself.
So I think I'm not an expert at like Memberful is the product, but my understanding is they're like a subscription hub. So if you're a creator, you can have like your Memberful, and you can charge people for your, I don't know, your Teachable, and maybe your Substack, and maybe your, 6 or 8 other places where you actually have audience that wants to pay you in a specific vertical format. So it's almost like a portable identity for payments to creators. So when he says a Memberful like subscription, you can imagine that Twitter could, be the hub for those relationships with audience, because it's kind of the first discovery point. Twitter can be the hub for the relationship with those audiences. People can keep credit cards on file with Twitter, and then when you want to subscribe to a newsletter that may be managed offsite, you actually do it through your Twitter identity and through a Twitter payment mechanism. And that, ideally, if that's where all the discovery is happening, that simplifies all the payments to the various providers, and it's better for creators, better for audience, et cetera. And it solidifies Twitter as a more important piece of those ecosystems.
Yeah.
And if indeed what I just suggested is a thing, I think the opportunity is probably bigger than $2 billion. But there's probably a lot to navigate to make that all work. So maybe it's discounted for risk.
Let people personalize, set up storefronts, create spaces to hang out, and build a more direct connection. I wonder if this is where Spaces is kind of going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds a little bit like, have you ever used those, if you subscribe to somebody on Patreon, you actually get like access to these special message boards where the creators hang out. And so you can I think some people do this, like Lenny does this with Slack, right? Like people discover him through Twitter, but then they, subscribe to his they build their monetization relationship with him through Substack. But then if you have that monetization relationship through Substack, then you get access to his Slack. So you can imagine, I think Patreon does these kinds of message boards on site for their creators, and then people use Slack as another kind of, a member award or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of, people personalize, set up storefronts. The storefronts thing is kind of interesting. We talked about the whole like link in bio phenomenon and Linktree and stuff.
Yeah.
So I wonder if the link in bio, Linktree phenomenon and storefronts are all kind of linked as topics where you you can actually host, if you run a Shopify or you want to promote your travel services or some external blog where you want to have a relationship, you can actually do all of that there. Actually, I'm gonna invite. I saw Even show up. Even.
Hi, how are you?
Hey,
Hello.
welcome.
Good to see you.
You
Very
have
impressive setup.
by far the most impressive setup we've seen here yet.
That's a routine comment. It's actually really fun. What I joke about it is when you first get introduced to someone and then you have a conversation, like what is that conversation about? And if it's about the pandemic, that sucks. A lot of lockdown and protests. If it's like, oh, the colors in your background are so nice. It's like, yeah, that's a lovely introduction, like icebreaker.
Yeah.
I need to.
I like especially that blue kind of glow, soft glow halo behind your head.
Yeah, so what I have here is a mirrorless camera with a fairly wide angle field of view, which means the subject is in focus and the background isn't blurry. So if I were to like do this with my hand and if autofocus could work, then you see my face is relatively blurred, and then it's actually a nice autofocus that changes faster. Sometimes I'll hear people with DSLRs where I can actually hear the mechanism of the autofocus changing, like it picks up on their mic, and so it'll be like back and forth as they like go in and out. Yeah, a little bit different. You wanted to talk about video production, right? Like that's something.
Well, yeah, I guess this is part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting. There's so many layers to this. One of them is just the way techie folks, like, have you noticed a lot of tech folks are pilots? Kind of get into that. And so what I think happens is when you have something that's like technical, that's interesting, like software engineering, technical folks will glom onto that and just see there's so much depth there. And so when it comes to being a pilot, it's similar kind of, there's the physics of it, there's logistics, there's all this training, you have to get better at it. It's like an RPG. Yeah. And similarly for video production, I found that there's just super interesting spectrum from I'm doing some selfie on a phone, like posting it to TikTok, to Christopher Nolan and these amazing, practical effects in film. And so when you think about color, cameras, like resolution, narrative, just composition, there's just like actually a lot of dimensions on all of this. And we've all been staring at really shitty webcams for a year now, and people can do so much better if they just work a little bit on it.
How did you get into it around the pandemic or around when? Because I've seen you've been working on this YouTube channel for a little bit. Was it one and then the other, or what's the sequence?
So, broadly speaking, I'm going into VC, and I think VCs should do marketing, and I think content marketing is the best because I can think in public, and then others can watch that and hopefully think in reaction to that, like, this guy's smart, I want to work with him. And so things I'm exploring now are topics like, how do you build hardware quickly? Very hard topic, harder than software, I would say. And so it goes
You're
back
exploring
to
that through
so I've done,
thinking in public, or?
Yeah, so like I've done a few interviews with folks on this topic. I literally asked folks like, who's the best at building hardware, and then I talked to them about it, for example. But before doing Tango, I think that I was interested in video just because it's fun. It's nice to get out there, and I tend to be very I don't know, what's the patronizing? I like to explain things. So I've always been in this mode of like, I know something and I think it's really cool, so let me tell you about it. That's why it's fun to be a dad, where I can like help explain this. Patronizing is obviously a very negative view of that. It's like you can spin it in a much more positive way. But generally when you have a lot of ideas, or let me phrase it this way: the way to have good ideas is to have a lot of ideas, and just being active in thinking and sharing it is very, very good. And I see, it's actually funny when I accidentally open an incognito window on YouTube. I spend a lot of time on YouTube, and I'm always like, oh God, what is this directing my feed right now? This is terrible. And actually, I think most YouTube is junk. But what I watch is so fun and so good. And so there's like nerdy science, techie stuff, and a lot of how-tos. And there's pretty much in every category, people that are very good at something explaining how to do it. And going back to filmmaking or working with making video generally, as you would expect, there's so many people good at video that post YouTube videos about making video, because of course they are. It's like the medium that you expect. Very meta, so it's just so easy to learn relative to what used to be. And that's awesome because things like I don't know compression on audio very well. It's just one of these things I just like, I know I don't know. And I need to learn more about it. And I've watched a video once or twice, and there's still more to learn. And the difference between something that is good audio engineering or not is a pretty big difference in terms of how echoey it sounds, or just how much information is conveyed, like denoising. There's all these, like, and compression is one of them. All these things you should do to your audio to make it better. And so on any given topic, there are things related to this. And so if you Google teal and blue, or teal and orange filmmaking, what you'll get is a color theory short intro on why it is that I have the background colors that are here, because it's just so obvious. There's
This
actually
is like dyephotography.net.
You look anywhere; it's everywhere. If you just Google
share the link to
teal
the top
and
one.
orange movie posters, for example, you'll find that most movies posters follow a similar color scheme. And so why is that? I actually don't know why color wheels work the way they do, but the way they work is that you have these complementing colors, and it turns out like lighter skin tone matches up with like orange and blue, and actually darker skin tones are a bit more brown and purple on a color wheel. And the cool thing about that is if you just think of like, oh, what are the movies I've watched that center on Black actors and actresses? It's like, well, you got think of like Wakanda, like Black Panther, and you have like one orange one and one purple one. Or if you think of what's that HBO show, Insecure, like very similar kinds of color schemes sometimes, and it's like, oh yeah, color theory applied appropriately. And there's so much depth here, and so that's a lot of fun. And so it's trivial for me to like add, how do I point to that? Add a light like that, and already had this light in the room, and think more about lighting. And it's just not that hard to actually dive in and do it. So for example, most people have a room that's too bright, and so the subject is not popping relative to the back. Or if they have
probably
a window,
me right now, right?
you have some books that are nice. You have some color going on there. That's nice.
I'm gonna substantially improve my lighting right now.
I would face a window and turn the light off in the room. It might not be enough highlight lights on the back there, but you could add a quick thing. We're doing it now. And yeah, you got a subject popping. Unfortunately, you're being lit by your screen right now. And so actually I have a very bright light on me right here, but it's just on me. So it's not in the rest of the room. And so, the reason, if I were to turn on the light, how about I do that? I'll go, oh, interesting. It's fancy blinds. Wow. I'm going to turn on the light in the room. Actually, should I do this? No, I won't. It's just too gross to see the difference. Yeah. But I guess another layer here is just producing content, which is, the production is just incidental. It's just like one part of it, And that's a whole other thing. I think the most interesting side of this is building audience over time. And you guys were just talking about Lenny and a Slack community versus a subscription newsletter. And I think one emotionally interesting side of this is that there's like a power law in attention, where some people have a stupid amount of it and many others don't. And then you look at the history of the channels that have a large following, and it's like, well, actually there's like a grit story here where I think it was the average number of videos before you hit 10,000 followers is like over 1,000. It's like 3,000 or so. That's the number of videos you put out there. That is nuts. That is crazy. And some people move faster. So whatever, like Gary Tan is good. And I think he has
also, if you have audience in other places, that can help support and bolster, kind of seed new audience.
It's interesting because I have like 6,400 Twitter followers, but I actually think a good chunk of them I've worked in growth, and what happens when you work in growth is that I think a lot of people in growth like auto follow you or use whatever bots.
Oh, okay.
There's a huge chunk that are bots, and so actually I think I under index.
So you attract the wrong crowd.
Yeah, so when I look at people that have like 60,000 followers, the engagements per post is far more than 10x what I have there. And so my goal is to create something that is good, like useful, but I would want to have had there, but also like monetizing exhaust, so to speak, with sharing what I put out there as I learn. And I think it's like a game I want over time. And what's interesting is does it matter? Like take Mark Rober. He's this like mechy NASA guy that makes videos, and like every single one of his videos has 20 million views. And he had one like just yesterday about kicking a football. No surprise, almost certainly
Is this
over
the
10 million now.
sprinkle bomb one? The sparkle bomb guy?
Yeah. And so it's interesting when you're comparing yourself to others for like what good performance is, but also with respect to marketing and VC, how, or even for companies, is like, what is your goal? Like, what is the audience that you want? And if the right 10,000 people are, in my sphere of influence, then I think I've accomplished my goal. But I'm not sure what that number should be. It's kind of hard to pick when you're in the world of YouTube and comparing yourself to like PewDiePie or whatever. Like, is that useful?
Right.
Like, yeah. Right. On the other hand, it's really easy to sandbag.
I'm curious how does you mentioned before kind of discovery on YouTube and how you sort of subscribe and curate your the channels that you're interested in there. And I wonder how do you usually come about that? Is that on site on YouTube, or do you come about it through Twitter? Because I think some of how that works may inform some of how you think about your audience growth. Like, do you think you can grow audience by putting out content in YouTube that then circulates the YouTube ecosystem, or do you create the content for YouTube but you circulate it through Twitter or Substack or other places that you might be kind of investing your sort of more like relationships and thinking?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of cross promotion that's opportunistic there, but I think I've found that people don't transfer as much, and you really want to rank within YouTube to get more of a following there. And there's a lot of strategies around that, and some of which that I still need to follow. I think the most basic strategy I need to follow is be more consistent. And so I put out 12 things last year, and that should be more like 50. And just like consistently putting things out would be very good. How
do you think about consistency relative to quality? Because I think one of the things that causes low consistency might be kind of keeping an extremely high threshold for quality and post-production. How do you think about the trade-off of those?
So it's interesting with respect to podcasts, because if I were to take the audio from this, I could turn it into a podcast relatively easily, including if I wanted to filter it, to edit it and manage it. And video is much harder. And actually, I think that's why there's an opportunity in video, because it is so much harder. And, as far behind as I might be from Mark or Roper or PewDiePie or these others, I'm definitely ahead of almost all VCs. And it's one of these things where you even look at like a major brand like Y Combinator, and it's like, oh, they have like 100,000 followers, I want to say. And I checked this last fall, they had 30 million views total. And of that, 10 million was from 3-minute videos. So it's like a straight up third of what they've done. Law of
their views come from.
And if you were to guess the two people involved in those videos, the people that were in them, who would you guess?
Involved in the videos that accounted for such a large fraction of Y Combinator's views. I guess people who would otherwise have some notoriety that people would want to be coming to see. So maybe like, I don't know, Alexis Ohanian?
You're not thinking big enough.
Elon Musk?
Elon Musk, and number 2?
Mark Zuckerberg.
That's correct.
Okay.
You win a prize.
Oh, good job.
So those 3 videos are 9 million views. And I forgot to mention 14 million views of the 27 were from those 2 guys. And so other videos added up to the rest. And so it's a little weird trying to reason about like, where should I be pushing what? So should I do like a very clickable video on how Elon Musk's public statements about self-driving are bullshit? Should I like call it out? Or would being a fanboy be better? Like, who's going to get more people? And then it's going back to the goal, which is like, do I even give a shit about this? Like, do founders care about this? Like,
I wonder, like, I think there's sort of 2 flavors of things that founders would care about. And I think one would be, you have, some sort of proprietary or specific knowledge that you deliver in these videos, and they get a taste of it when they watch you on YouTube, but they want to get like deep with it, and they know the only way to do that is to get you involved somehow. So I think that's like one type of content, but my guess is anything you produce in that category of content is unlikely to like, trip the YouTube algorithm to get the right set of people that are going to be interested. Like, it just feels like that's going to be a hard one for YouTube to figure out. It does seem like the kind of thing that Twitter is generally good at figuring out. So if you create really compelling content, get it on Twitter, and people retweet and it shows up in the right places. Actually, I'm going to refresh. I'm going to refresh. Just give me a second here.
Like it's like a knock knock. Can you hear me? And now I say that to everybody. Like I answer the phone. Hello. It's like the Zoom habits. It's interesting in terms of who you're creating content for and the kinds of things they do. I actually think Twitter is quite bad at getting legit good content bubbled to the top. I'm just going to call out not specific people, but vaguely. Like there's so much like pithy aphorisms that make no fucking sense that are promoted very, very heavily on Twitter. And then there are people that I know are like legit like bosses that if you could hire them at all, you would be lucky to. And they're just like this like mismatch. And then there are even people that I know from personal experience where I'm like, that person's an idiot. And then like, oh wait, the network Twitter following, they're actually an idiot. Like I've worked with them. Like what the fuck is going on here? And so I think Twitter is terrible, actually. And to the certain.
Nope, we still got you.
Did his internet go out?
Try to use this terrible tool. Like
I think we might have. I think we might have lost you briefly there.
I'm entitled to nothing.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me? Test. Yeah. I mean, I was just being too aggressive about.
The Twitter overlords of the internet are dissatisfied.
As far as what I should do, like what strategy should be out there.
How's your internet connection okay right now? Or? Okay. By the way, don't worry about this because we didn't invite anybody. We make videos and we just like clip them up and highlight them how we want. So don't worry if internet goes out or something. It's not a big deal. If you need to, I've refreshed my browser or something.
Test.
Yeah, we got you. Yeah.
We got you back?
We got you back? How are you feeling?
Here.
Yeah, I think you're here. I see you. So you were telling us that Twitter doesn't necessarily do a great job about getting all the best thinking out.
Yeah. I think part of it is the digestibility of it. And so you need something that plays well on Twitter. And actually most things are far more complex than how they're represented. And there are always trade-offs. And sometimes I'll like rant about some of these. And so whatever, I'll read something. What was it? It was actually Alexis talking about plant-based diets, and decided to finally rant about beef because we have some like major innumeracy going on with respect to climate change and beef. And people have, I'm not sure what exactly it is. I think not, I don't want to get too political about this, but it's like, I think since like population bomb 70s, like environmentalism, we had this idea that human activity is bad and there's certain behaviors that you should do that are good. And we have this like moral suasion that comes with that, where if you don't do these things, you're bad. And like when you dig into the numbers, it doesn't quite match up with that moral suasion. Like you don't really have a right to say those kinds of things. Or even the people that do say them, I wonder like, hey, what's your carbon footprint? Have you even figured it out? Like I kind of doubt it, actually.
Right. It seems like the flights, airplane air travel seems to be like one of the big ones that people frequently discount or don't count maybe as much as they should when
have this sanctimony. Yeah, I mean, so you should do the math and figure it out. So my message is do the math, figure it out. And I've looked at the math on some of these things, and they are much better than what people say. And the idea that like all Americans should stop eating beef, which is what people imply, is ridiculous. And it's as ridiculous as saying stop driving your car. Right. You got to get to work, whatever. And like I own 2 electric cars. I think it's a very good idea to stop driving internal combustion engines. And by the way, if you want to go on a road trip, good luck. Like we're literally logistics planning a trip this summer, and like there are certain parts where you cannot get from like parts of Utah to Nevada, like whatever.
Oh, I thought this was I thought this was the whole idea of the Tesla network was that it actually you could get anywhere across the country with there's a supercharger somewhere for you.
You can definitely get across the country. That doesn't mean you can get from any point A to point B. And so,
you're saying you might have to go really far routing around in order to.
Yeah, so I actually would want to have taken a Model 3 we have, and I don't think I can because there's going to be like a 250-mile segment with no superchargers, and this is
across Utah, Nevada.
It's part of Utah, yeah. Just like a southern end, and if you know southern Utah, it's like it's nothing there, right? Or parts of Utah, at least. Again, my geography wrong. And I wanted to bring this back to Twitter though, because so there's things people say on Twitter that play very well to like echo chamber of what people believe, including like AOC Green New Deal stuff and all these like environmental sides to it. And like I have a spreadsheet of my carbon footprint. I know exactly what to do. I'm investing very heavily in solving it. And when I see this sanctimony, I'm just like, fuck off. Like I don't want to play this game. And so it's one of these things where there's a very clear reason why very good people, I think, tend to not do the nuanced commentary about these things. Like
because if that's not what gets rewarded by the algorithms and gets rewarded by more attention, then
Yeah. And so there's definitely some packaging you can do on certain ideas that would be very helpful. And so I think YouTube is able to do that. There is a part of YouTube that allows for deep conversations. And so part of what I've done on interviews is try to go deep there, but I'm not the best interviewer yet. And I don't have Elon Musk on yet. And so I need to build up an audience. I think a really good example of this is actually, and it relates to where you syndicate what information, is Coleman Hughes. You ever heard of him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Coleman Hughes is like 23 and a genius. He's so smart. And how did I learn about him is that I heard a podcast interview with him on another podcast I was listening to. It was I forgot exactly what it was. It was Sam Harris, I'm almost certain. And the clarity of his thinking was so impressive that I'm like, okay, I'm going to go follow his podcast now, follow him on YouTube. And, you don't have to just agree with all the ideas. I think more is the meta of like having a guest is a way to get those ideas shared. And another meta layer is the depth of the discussion is incredibly high, and one that I don't mind investing in because there's trade-offs everywhere. I do think though that a gap in YouTube is, when it comes to depth and rigor, is around really high quality content for like instruction. And so one of my plans is to put together essentially a recruiting class. I end up talking to founders a lot about recruiting. I have a lot of experience in it. And then there's two classes of founders, people that have never done it before, so they need a lot of help. And so, for example, how do you adjust your pitch that's like a VC pitch, but to hire someone? It's not the same thing.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And there's 100 things like that that are specifically seed stage recruiting very difficult. Or you have founders that have done it before, but they have like a brand and a big team and a lot of resources and a lot of requirements too. So you might have like agencies that can work with you because you can place a lot of people. Anyway, I have a lot to say about recruiting. And so actually I think some kind of class is the most appropriate format. Whereas if I were to, and I've already done some, if I were to interview people about recruiting, different aspects of it, it ends up being like not enough depth. So for example, I'm editing this video now. I have I interviewed a Black engineer that I worked with at Lyft, and part of the topic was how do you get more Black engineers? How do you build a culture about that? Like, what if you're doing university recruiting? What do you do? And so all these amazing topics. Now he's like the head of hardware at Peloton. He's an amazing guy. And I actually think despite it being an hour-long conversation, it was not enough depth of like, what is the playbook? Like let's say I'm a founder and I want to do a good job on culture and have like a very inclusive environment. What do I specifically do? And there's actually a long list of things that you could do. And ideally it's like a very succinct, like a template to follow. And I think I've noticed this with even like the conversations that are really good depth where they don't actually teach you nearly enough. It's like I've noticed, for example, on a lot of like Sam Harris is a good example. A lot of policy discussions there are backwards. Like they don't do a good job. They're incomplete. They compared to like a textbook. Like a textbook or essay is very high rigor compared to those discussions. Anyway, all this to say, I'm exploring the space a lot.
Have you thought about using take recruiting is almost like a vertical specific piece of content or kind of category of content around around the broader kind of venture capital or seed ecosystem, have you thought about taking that and creating a kind of a brand around that stuff? 'Cause I feel like part of what is happening in the world, I mean, I guess it's like maybe it's a broader YouTube content podcast question, but like there was kind of this moment that happened, 10 years ago when a lot of these, kind of interview style podcasts and, also somewhat YouTube started becoming really popular. And I wonder if we're at a late enough stage in evolution that like the better starting point today might be to get really deep and known for one specific thing, like, recruiting, because you mentioned, and do like the canonical recruiting, podcast or video series, and use that then to sort of bootstrap and generalize kind of more, broader audiences over time.
I do think
thought about that?
Focus adds a lot, and so that's very important. I think that I have specific plans around recruiting related to like spinning up services, and so I want a premium bit of content there that works well with my idea that we need to have more depth in these things. And so my penciled in plan now is to have interviews from which I can pull clips that then promote a class if you want to go higher depth. And so you have these piecemeal, it's like literally a question I asked my friend Alfred that I just mentioned is like, so which HBCUs are good for engineering? Like what should I do? And then he had like a very specific answer on which schools, but also talked about NISB and other very specific things. That is an amazing 5-minute segment. And if somebody's interested in that, then I presume they're going to be interested in a full class on this that covers more mundane, not mundane, just like, how to do a referral program, like how to do all these things that would be part of recruiting.
There's kind of the punchy clips that help sort of share an interesting idea that then draws people into the longer form videos, longer form kind of course content. My
fear, though, with a focus on just recruiting is this is not actually a Tango brand. It's a personal brand YouTube channel. And I think that's actually my main goal is because I think that's like the future of brand, at least in VC, of like an individual that you want to work with. And I think when we expand the partnership, that might change if there's other people, but then it might just be like, hey, everyone go figure out your brand. And some people are definitely pushing this. So I'd argue Andreessen has the brand, but then also Andrew Chen has the brand, and now he has a book and he has a blog that's 15 years old. He's been doing an amazing job for a long time, and so that it is that personal side comes forth, and it's not whatever Lenny's eventual VC fund is going to be called. He's the brand, very clearly, and it is within to your point. It is within a niche of like a specific area, like the product is there. And there are others that are like that, like Chapter 1, what's his name? Jeff Morris Jr. He is like specifically trying to be in product. It's funny for me because it's like, I've been a product guy for a long time, and it's like I'm just not picking that niche, and I have like related but different experiences. So it's just like it's an explicit, interesting. I'm not in that niche, and so how do I like pick an area to go after? But it feels to me like if you have a little more. Oh yeah, no worries. No worries. I was just going to say, it feels like there's a lot of these brands that get established around something like, I think about, Elad's early blogging, 12, 13 years ago was mostly around like startup financing, but then that has broadened outside of just the financing moment to like, all things startups. Yeah. And I wonder if actually the focus helps people kind of learn about you within a context and get a calling card developed that can then sort of leak out to other things over time. Yeah, I should take that advice seriously and pursue it. I do need to go. So it was a very fun conversation.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for dropping by. And we'd love to learn more about how you do your highlighting and what you're making these clips and stuff.
I have so much more to do there. And I think, we didn't touch enough about it. So let's talk more about it.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Thanks for stopping by. See ya. All right. That was fun. I'm impressed with his video setup for one.
Yeah.
And then I think he also has a lot of, he's being thoughtful about content and how to produce, something that's unique and differentiated and valuable for people. So that's, I think it's pretty interesting. I do think YouTube is under invested in kind of the venture ecosystem just because of the challenge of creation in that format. So I did want to hear his thoughts on clips, though.
I know.
Do you see the screenshot I took, though? Oh my God. It's so he makes the screenshot. I shared a screenshot to Slack. Sorry, under feedback. But you look at like his video setup compared to ours. We look amateur. That's what a real pro looks like.
Sold on the blue background, but it is impressive.
You're not sold on the blue background?
I don't think so. I think I'm like, if I had to be in a dark room with like custom colored lighting behind me all day, I think I would literally fall into depression.
Yeah.
Something that works with natural light would be good too.
Right. I like the one. Have you seen? I think it's. I'll hesitate to say it wrong because he was even tweeting about this morning. But Yob from Remote.com, he actually has a really nice kind of a white lighting setup. I've actually got the tweet bookmarked, so I'm going to pull it up for my bookmarks. I'm not a big bookmarker on Twitter, but this one I do have. He has like kind of this beautiful, just almost like a little halo white pinkish color. I've always liked what he did there.
That's nice. Yeah.
Now I kind of want to see like an even and Gary Tan like face to face kind of heads up comparison. You see, we also uncovered this replace bug, which I feel like has happened a bunch. Did you notice?
What happened?
So I shared it in Slack. We have as a controller of the participants list, the replace feature looks like it shows up as a replace, but it doesn't give me any options with who to replace or what to replace with. So I think that's something to handle.
Yeah.
So let's see. So before Even came by, we were talking about Pecky stuff. Do you want to?
Yeah. I might actually
other stuff there?
highlight, but do you mind if I like pause for a second?
Oh yeah, go for it.
There's just a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, I posted 2. I'll post more later.
Oh, cool.
One is going through.
Those are highlights?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna...
Takes a while to post, so I don't think it's done yet.
Have you seen that there was like the history of YouTube channels? There was like a Mr. Beast YouTube growth tweet, which showed year by year, I think, how many subscribers he had.
Really?
It was, yeah, I think he hit a major milestone recently. I forget what it was. But I think he hit a major milestone recently, and as part of hitting that milestone, people were talking about, okay, yeah, here it is, I got it. This is how many views I got on YouTube during each year of my life. And it's from 12 years old to 22 years old. And are you familiar with Mr. Beast? Do you know like of his existence or what his?
Yeah.
So he's one of the top creators. He's the guy who launched the burger brand recently. So age 12, he had 15,000 views the whole year. Age 13, cut in half to only 7,000. Then at age 14, he got 41,000. 15, 125,000. 16, 202,000. 17, 5.4 million. 18, 122 million. Age 19, 464 million. Age 20, 2 billion. 21, 3.3 billion. 22, almost 3.5 billion so far. So far, actually. Yeah, so we don't know when his birthday is, but but very, very impressive numbers. I did poke around because I was curious. I love kind of the early creator stories and what was he doing, and I was poking around, and I do think probably at age 12, which would have been 10 years ago, which would have been 2011. YouTube was already a major going concern. Had been acquired by Google 5 years before that, I think. Probably 2006. Mm-hmm. So it was already, obviously huge winner. It wasn't like he found YouTube like super early. But he did find it. And when he found it, he just started creating. But the stuff he was doing was like weird. Like I remember seeing something where he would count to like, I think, what did he count to like 100,000? And he would sit there and he'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so it's kind of fun that you can use the scrubber and go to any point in the number line, and he's sitting there, blah, 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 and his like mouth is getting dry, and it takes hours and hours to get through this. But he was just like playing with interesting new creative ideas. And I don't know really what, I think kind of like what Eden was telling us, there was, 1 or 2 major moments that really caused a lot of breakout for him.
Yeah.
But I think he's got a little bit more of like he knows what works. And so as a creator, he's like figured out not only how the platform works, but what aspects of the platform work for him that matches up with like stuff he's good at and interested in his style. Yeah. I'm curious now that I'm looking at these numbers again, what happened between age 12 and 13? Because I think from 13 onwards, every day you make new videos, you just know it's working, right? Mm-hmm. Like it feels like there's you just make more stuff and better stuff, and it just compounds and it's obvious. Mm-hmm. But something in the like age 12, age 13, before he really hit his formula, or at least kind of had his observations, I wonder. It's a little bit of a trough of despair. Kind of reminds me. Do you know the Paul Graham, diagram of startup success?
No.
Oh, I think that may be where the trough of despair comes from, or that's why I said that. Let me see if I can find trough of sorrow. Sorry, it's the trough of sorrow. Uh-oh, links on the web are broken.
Oh, Ayush is here.
Oh, Ayush, welcome. I'm going to just share the thing I was talking about. So that's Paul Graham's The Startup Curve. And there's the TechCrunch of initiation, wearing off of novelty. Trough of sorrow is kind of this flat to somewhat downward portion. Mm-hmm. and my understanding is Paul Graham didn't actually label all of those moments. He kind of drew the thing and labeled one moment, and then kind of other people, maybe one of the other YC partners, put in a bunch of other kind of comical labels, sort of to troll him. But anyway, should we invite Ayush up?
Yeah.
Have you met Ayush yet?
Only at one of our events. I think the Annie Duke one. Maybe he asked a question.
Oh, right, okay. There he is. Hello, Ayush.
Oh,
Hello.
Hey there. What's up?
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Hey, Mishti.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Just was trying to hang out. I thought I missed your lunch conversation because I saw it was at 12 p.m. And
we go on for hours. We literally read Twitter, start reading articles, talk about them. The stream's on, so
that's awesome.
there's no strict sense of time.
Oh wow! So we're streaming
We're live on YouTube, yeah.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Here, I'll share. You can see there's a streaming now link at the top, but I just shared a link to YouTube, so you can see. Be careful, because when you click on that, you're going to hear us on a little bit of delay.
Yeah, that's
right. It might be confusing, but
you'll see all the characters who have dropped by in the last hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah,
awesome. But this
you
is
can
so
scroll
good.
through.
Yeah.
So I showed you yesterday. So yesterday, Ayush and I had the chance to take a socially distanced walk and a socially distanced dine.
So exciting.
And,
so you're both in SF now? Ayush,
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I'm in Palo Alto, but yeah, I keep coming down.
Nice.
So we had a chance to hang out, and we took a photo by the ocean, and so that was actually a hot topic of conversation at our global sync this morning with the highlighter team.
That's awesome.
And it's been blowing up on Twitter. I'm getting all these new followers, people I've never met before, who I suppose are coming from your network. So yeah, you're quite famous in India, huh?
Awesome.
You're like a celebrity.
You had a dinner break, and now you're on lunch break.
That's right.
Talk about what's interesting these days.
Yeah, it's nice. I was just checking out, just in the middle of meetings, and then I just realized David invited me for lunch, and we were chatting about some sort of potentially doing a tiny show yesterday.
Yeah.
So thought I'll hang out and chat about that.
So yeah, I'll tell Mishti what we mean by that. So
Yeah.
the point was that a lot of what Ayush does in his day job is helping bring people together, both like companies and talent, and helping people connect across the world. And he has in his network, among his angel investors and other kind of supporters and advisors, he has a lot of kind of thought leaders around remote work. And so we were sort of brainstorming this idea: what if we actually help support Ayush's work to do a show where he can invite some of these thought leaders on, he can interview, or maybe we help with it depending on what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
But we actually then create videos together with these people, create highlights, share those highlights out so that people can learn about his thinking and the thinking of people in his network, and kind of create all these moments and videos. We can have them on YouTube, we can push them on Twitter. We create all these moments around kind of Ayush and the thinking and people around his network, which is mostly focused on remote work. And so then we were saying, okay, well, we don't want to call it the remote work show, because that's a little bit too bland, right? So we came up with this idea of Tiny World, which is
I love that so much. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause all these conversations are also so scattered over the internet, ironically, right? About remote work. I don't feel like there's not a good nexus of, everyone's kind of talking about it, and it'll come up on Twitter every day or two, but where do those tendrils go? You don't really have a nice source. And a lot of people are just learning through conversation like this. So that sounds like a really cool
Right.
format.
Yeah, that's right. There are also some like really practical advice which is kind of like hard to find. It's scattered all over the place, and also there is a lot of cultural differences, which you will only know when you try it. Like we've seen historically with Pesto, almost every partner who we have had on board, they are early believers. They were very sort of cautious about doing it at first because you don't understand how it works. People in India working at night doesn't sound right to people here, but then culturally, in India, people like working at night, for some reason, and they like starting their day late, and that's just the culture. And all shops are open till like 11 p.m. or whatever, right? So I think there's a lot of information there, which also gives people the right context. So it's just awesome to get people who have done it before to share their experiences and some practical advice on how to navigate through the challenges, because there are a lot of challenges, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Is there
there's a lot of people.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to ask if there's someone you've spoken to recently about. Sorry, we keep talking over each other.
That's okay.
About the remote work topic, who has kind of like, I don't know, like introduced a new idea in your head or like push your thinking on it, because you're so like steeped in this world. I'm wondering what kind of, I don't know, what new ideas or experiments are you thinking about?
Gotcha. Yeah, I feel like there are a bunch of things which is just about doing little things, right? I think it's mostly that. But one of the ideas which I just saw on Twitter was, I just realized that there's a Twitter thread compilation on the right side. I'll do my best to grab that.
Okay, yeah, we just share our kind of format for lunch break. We just hang out and share Twitter links. So we're just like, oh, did you see this one? Did you see that one? So those are just whatever we felt like sharing. So yeah, if you found a Twitter thread, feel free to share it, but no stress if you don't have it handy.
That's right. Yeah. So basically, I saw Sahil from Gumroad share this, and that kind of I resonated well with that because I had been doing it subconsciously over the last few weeks. So what we did at Pesto is that we established an audio-only culture. And this way, I just never use my phone and get distracted by a bunch of notifications. So I just use Apple Watch and sort of keep doing calls back to back. And no one in the company uses their camera for doing like operational calls. For social calls, we do hang out and start cameras. So the tweet which Sahil sort of came up with is about a new experiment. I'm going to share it here. So that's basically about moving the entire meetings of the entire company from Zoom to Clubhouse, which is pretty interesting. I think I could imagine, sort of if my company is on Clubhouse, I think that'll be fun. Not just for productive meetings. You can schedule all the team meetings for productivity, but also just for transparency, right? It's like I'm a big fan of just chatting in public on Slack and not having private channels or DMs, right? And I think Clubhouse just gives you that opportunity to just do meetings and allow anyone to join in as they want and also host social time. So pretty excited about that.
And do you imagine you'd use kind of for you do kind of internal meetings that you would do in closed rooms or open rooms, or I think there's like the social mode, I think, where you can name specific people. So is that, do you want to do some of that and then maybe some of the more public stuff, or how do you sort of think about what you want to do with kind of the internal team?
I would say like 101s can be closed because they're supposed to be like, limited people. But apart from that, pretty much, like there are different kinds of weekly updates of different teams or, different kinds of meetings. I would just want to keep it open, just have people invited who are supposed to be there, but just also have it open for everyone else, like come hang out, see what's happening in the company, right? So I think that's like a great way to just give people perspective about what's happening and feel more inclusive.
Yeah, it's nice to have kind of a always on, but no real requirements. So you can kind of pop in when it makes sense. Yeah. That's
so cool. Excited about that one. I'm gonna give that a shot and see if I can do that.
Yeah, that's cool. What else? What else are you thinking about these days with respect to kind of your kind of internal team processes, or how you think about sort of, what's next, what's most important for you to focus on?
I think I'm giving it a shot to go asynchronous. I think that's one thing which I believe, and the moment you start doing it and it starts working, it's really awesome. So
Yep.
I've been working on that to reduce my hours. Of course, currently I'm doing like early mornings in US to have like some overlap, but I think
Yep.
my goal is to just reduce that and have as minimum as possible. So
Right.
that'll be fun.
And so the team is split mostly India, but then you're in the US. And so when you say
Correct.
async, is it async across mostly those time zones with a little bit of overlap for collaboration in the PT morning?
Absolutely, yeah. Like
Okay.
have a couple of hours of collaboration for maybe social time or like, monthly reviews or something which just involves everyone. But apart from that, pretty much, go asynchronous, use Loom videos for stand-up updates and document everything on Notion, etc. We do have a couple of people in US as well. But yeah, I think it's just like so far it's working really nicely. I think once we have a system in place, that really works.
Yeah.
Interesting. It kind of reminds me of last week we were talking to Jonathan Geller, and he wrote this blog piece on like power hierarchies basically, but then we started talking about kind of how you organize remote organizations and how like just a completely open Slack where everyone can ping or is pinging everyone else at the same time is not necessarily like, it's almost like deceptively open because there's still a lot of hierarchy and norms instilled, but they're not communicated out loud and not the best for like overall growth and productivity and whatever. So I wonder what you think of all that, like kind of how to organize what should be like heavily documented, like really focus on the writing and communication and get something right versus the more like, I don't know, like kind of sync type topics that you might want to build into a team as it's growing.
Yeah, we actually had like this public Slack. There was a backlash I faced from the team also that, they would get a bunch of notifications and how they would manage it and they'll get disturbed. And so I think like we invested some time in education, like how do you exactly use Slack, right? Like I created a Notion doc with all the details, like there are channels which you can mute, there are channels you can star, there are things which you can, just like be a part of, but not necessarily see. Like on a mute channel, you don't really, sort of get notified when there's something. So yeah, something like that, unless you get tagged, of course. So yeah, so I think if we helped people to sort of, educate them how to effectively use Slack. And one of the things like we came up with was pretty interesting. So everybody would have like their first name and last name, like, Ayush Jaiswal, Mishti Sharma, David King. So I said that last name is like, does not actually add real value to, sort of collaboration. So we just like got rid of all our last names and replaced it with the time of work, which, during the time with which we work in the format of the same time zone.
Right.
So everybody knows that when someone is, working, when someone is not, and we implemented a really cool tool called Remotion. Yeah, so I'm a big Remotion fan since the early days. I think Alex has been a good friend, and yeah, we've been a fan of that sort of product, and yeah, that helps us do synchronous collaboration better.
Yeah.
That's cool. How do you think about, like, do you have a process for what should be documented, or are there things that may normally not be documented that you sort of have I don't know if there's some sort of protocol around how stuff gets documented, how decisions get made through documents? Is that structured or formalized, or kind of happens ad hoc?
Oh, 100% formalized. I think one of the things which we realized in the beginning is that encouraging people to document more was actually a problem, because then everyone else would take time in reading stuff which may not add value, right? So we basically came up with certain rules that we created like an OKR system in Notion itself, in which we discuss the objectives and key results which we're chasing in group meetings, like once a week sort of thing. And then all the action items which are there, which we need to achieve a certain key results, are tasks which gets decided. So the rule is that not everybody plays around with the structure. That is something which we all agree on before we start making changes to those. And everyone just like, for example, we love Notion tables, and there's so much you can do with, sort of by sort of like, creating linked databases, etc. So I think we just create those tables, and then we sort of ask people to create new sort of, records in it, but not necessarily change the format. So as long as the format remains the same, the sanity to documentation is always there. So yeah, that's pretty much all.
Are you typically launching, like, I guess, as you expand the team and expand functions that are being served, I guess you must be writing new playbooks for teams to pick up. So does each one end up starting with sets of templates, or do you sort of organically allow them to emerge and discover which templates later? Or how does that process typically work?
So I would say, like, I write a lot of templates myself, just trying to give a certain structure to, how things should be done, like just standardizing things so that everyone knows what to expect, right? Like someone from the curriculum team can just go in and see how admissions is working, right? Because then they can add value there. So as long as the format remains the same, they know what to expect where, right? So we just like created those templates for the company overall, and then everyone can just jump in and make a use of that. So structure is something which we moderate. Everything else can be edited by people.
Right. And how many people on the team today?
We've got 20.
Cool. So you're sort of probably beyond where everybody is talking to everybody every day, because maybe
that's right.
Separate functions are out there, so a little bit more of that structure to help support kind of the process better.
Oh yeah, we struggled for a bit to do all hands meet and greet and social hours, and I actually love the lunch break. This is great.
Oh, good. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, we come on here because it helps us like practice using our tool, but then also helps us have fun, because we're we like to read Twitter anyway. We're always like sharing links via Signal. And we thought it's fun if we just hanging out, we can actually share in this format. It's almost like we get the source material, and then we can start to riff on it and sort of explore our own ideas here. So
once you read together, like this one, we were just reading this article together. I just put it in Google Docs. Very janky, but
oh, nice. That's Packy. Packy's. I love Packy.
You read his stuff, yeah?
Yeah, a lot. I think Packy and Lenny, I'm a big fan of both of their deep dive articles.
Have you read this one?
I think I haven't read this one. Yeah.
But anyway, it feels like he's had some interesting takes on like kind of product direction for Twitter and what they should be doubling down on and things like that.
Interesting, yeah.
We were just talking about this morning.
Yeah, this is interesting.
I'd say like the net of it, from what I've gotten so far, is that he's suggesting Twitter should focus more on kind of creator-centric tools and trying to sort of participate more in the monetization of broadly the creator economy, which presumably would it's a more of a direct pay models versus kind of an advertising-based business, which is I think an increasingly kind of popular idea to explore and kind of an interesting area. Seems like the next evolution of the internet will have a lot of different ways that this plays out. So
yeah, that's super interesting. Like, yeah, I think it'll be pretty massive though for Twitter to go on that route, because it's like at a totally different scale. I did read somewhere that they were thinking about monetizing TweetDeck, which was or creating subscription for TweetDeck, which is.
I did see somebody mention TweetDeck Plus this morning, kind of in an offhanded joke, but I don't know if that was part of that idea that you're talking about, or if that was something different.
Gotcha.
Do you know what TweetDeck Plus is?
Yeah, it might just be a rumor, but something might be coming here.
Yeah.
And then how's the rest of life? Kind of as you've been scaling an org while moving across the ocean, and I see you've got a pull-up bar behind you. So are you?
Yeah,
We're glad to see your like ab posts on.
Yeah, are we gonna get the thirst trap?
the new version of Ayush is 2.0, which is totally different. But yeah, I've been enjoying my time. I think it's been 2 weeks, 3 weeks now, since I've been here, and I feel extremely productive. And there's a lot to learn. I know that there is a lot of, there was a lot of confusion which I had around whether to move or not to move, because everyone was moving out of the Bay Area and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But
what was decision making like? How did you end up deciding?
It's lovely. I think just by sheer serendipity, the amount of things you get to learn here is just incredible. I think I've seen my sort of myself grow as a founder over the last 2-3 years, and I feel that just by being here, and also like the support you get from the ecosystem is pretty phenomenal, right? I think I'm really enjoying my time, and I feel growing a lot more as a founder. So,
what has surprised you most about kind of the transition?
So I'm not as surprised because I've been here. Like I'd say, like the most surprising part is that I did not get COVID. Just traveling in the middle.
After a lot of travel, yeah.
Yeah, I had a lot of travel, and it was a lot of risk, and I just thought, I should just make the switch, and took that risk, and it turned out nice, yeah. But I think I'm really inspired rather from the kind of work everyone is doing, and getting used to the lifestyle, and it's really nice. I feel much more productive. I'm much more focused on my health now, which was not the case earlier. I'm getting really good sleep now. I think David remembers he would just ping me at any point.
All hours. Yeah.
Oh no.
Ayush is always awake. So
Yeah.
what's your magic? How did you start improving your sleep? Are you sort of just having better habits? Is it food? Is it consistency? Did you get a 8 sleep mattress like everybody in Miami?
Oh wow. I have no idea.
You don't know that? Oh, the 8
No.
sleep is I thought it's almost like a meme. Everybody gets an
Got
8
it.
sleep mattress.
Nice. I'm okay. Like I can sleep on a stone. Like I don't mind pretty much. But I've been getting good sleep. I've got a good mattress, good heaters, and yeah, I've been getting good sleep. And I think not having meetings at night helps. I think that wasn't the case.
A little bit. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So it's been fun. Yeah. I think it's dark, getting the sun, and also working out, which I think there's a lot of opportunity to do that here, and I just feel a lot more healthier and productive.
Yeah. Well, outside of work, have you been like reading anything interesting?
Oh yeah, I just
different topics and stuff, or what are you going through?
I don't know. I'm such a boring person, Mishti. So sorry to disappoint you
I
there.
don't believe that.
But I've been reading. I just started High Growth Handbook.
Oh wow!
I'm staying at a community place with there are some other founders and very interesting people here. So yeah, I just picked up one of the books, and I really liked it. I'd heard about it before, but never read it. So yeah, enjoying
Never saw
that.
the highlighter video?
Yeah, did you know Elad was our first guest on
Yes, I know that. Yeah. It was always on my reading list. I just never really got a chance to read it.
Yeah.
That's cool. So are you in like a co-living house, kind of like a hacker house or something like that for founders?
Yeah, that's exactly what they like calling it, like a hacker house with some hacker space and a bunch of founders.
That's
It's nice.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah, it's near Stanford, and yeah, the weather is nice and people are amazing.
Yeah. How'd you end up finding it? Was it just online communities?
Oh, so one of my really good friends is actually one of the residents here, and he introduced me. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've sort of been also talking about just like co-living spaces and how there's just like so much energy in them. Like I used to be in a co-op in college, and it was really nice. That was more just like we would cook for each other, and it wasn't like themed or anything. But I feel like a lot of these are popping up. I saw some.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
I'm sharing the link to the 2D music Bandcamp pages in case Ayush wants to.
I didn't think we could come back.
Oh, nice, sick.
That's
This is
my
the song stylings of Mishti Sharma.
yeah, if you want to hear me singing a song that I wrote for the co-op later,
Oh, you sing? You sing here?
just for fun.
Okay, nice. That's super nice. I'll check that out. But yeah, I've been a
That's
big.
awesome. Like, I would love to move somewhere like that. I mean, I was telling DK if I could find a house of writers or a house of, like, I don't know, creative people doing things, doesn't even have to be all in the same industry or whatever.
Yeah.
I would get so much energy from that I feel like is really missing. I mean, obviously during COVID, but just after college in general, it's very difficult to get that back.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think there are some communities which are really nice, full of great people. So yeah, those help generally.
Do you find that there's some overlaps between kind of, if you think about like the typical creator community or hacker house, sometimes there's a lot of like actual collaboration between like, creating media together, or, maybe it's debugging or testing products together. Do you and your kind of housemates have like, do you have specific kind of stuff you're doing together professionally, or is it kind of more socially, or how do you think about the assembly?
I mean, we tried to play Catan together last night, and I think that is like a bunch of strategies coming together.
Mm-hmm.
But I think apart from jokes, I think it's really nice. I think that's what I was talking about earlier. That serendipity, which is there in the place, is really beautiful. I do have a lot of people who I exchange notes with, or try to exchange playbooks with, and try to help them out in the ways I can, and sort of the reverse also happens. And I've come to realize that there is this strange, not strange, but a very sort of pleasing thing in the atmosphere here, in which everyone is always trying to give back, and that is just beautiful, which makes the ecosystem way too beautiful, right? So I think that sort of having a bunch of givers around you is like really nice. It helps you, get the best in you out, and that helps. Yeah. So yeah, staying in a hacker house, it's been like really nice.
Yeah.
With similar people.
That's really nice. Do you think similar things are coming up in India? Like, I know Balaji and Naval and a lot of people have been kind of like hosting these like India startup ecosystem chats, and I don't know, I wonder what the vibe is there with kind of like hacker houses and collaboration and startup stuff.
So super interesting. I had like a really fun story, but at some point I dropped out, and I did not tell my parents that I've dropped out, and I was super bankrupt, and I was like, I want to do something, and what I ended up doing is actually find a co-working space, which was India's one of the first few co-working spaces before WeWork just went in. It was called Innovate, and I just started living there. So I would just like sleep on the couch or library or wherever, and go to the gym for taking showers in the day. and I literally lived there for 8 months before I moved to the founder of Innovate's house.
Oh, wow.
Who's a really good friend now. So yeah, I believe like what Naval and Balaji talk about is very true. Like India has a lot of energy, and there's just so much potential lying there. With the right mentorship and opportunities, there's just like immense amount of potential which can be exploited.
Yeah.
I think Balaji, didn't he recently say I think he left the US and he's mostly based between
Singapore and
India. Singapore and India, yeah. So he's going to be spending, I think it's actually quite, a benefit to the ecosystem to have somebody who's so much networked, and the processes of San Francisco is now kind of living as an expat, and somehow, he's sort of in that region of the world, and that he can probably show up at places post-COVID, and certainly, he would be an aspirational figure that a lot of people could kind of learn from and meet and connect with.
That is amazing. I actually did not know that. I mean, I've read a lot that he was about to. I didn't know that he has already moved there. That's insane.
Yeah, I'll find the tweet, but I think he just announced it like last week or so, was it?
Got it.
Yeah.
I'll check it out as well. That's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, that's another cool thing about Tiny World if you end up doing it, right? Like you could pull in, it's the reverse as well. Like I'm sure you could pull in so many amazing voices from like India that people here aren't really hearing.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. I think there are some extremely amazing businesses which have been built out from India. Especially in SaaS, I think what FreshBooks has done, for example, is really amazing, and it's a great company. And yeah, I think there are a bunch of companies like that which people can be excited about.
Yeah.
What do you feel like is you'd like to see happening in India that's not yet happening?
Having, I think the next generation of founders going back and sort of having larger base of the ecosystem to help them, like the new generation. I think that is something which we're really excited about. Like the repeat founders which are coming in, I wouldn't say it's not happening. It's already happening. That there are people who have built things before are building things again, and I think it's just the nature of the market. Like it'll just take time because those people who have done things before will come back. They will either do more things or enable others to do more things. So I think a lot of those things will happen, and there'll be like an interesting amount of growth over the next 3 to 5 years or so for sure.
Yeah.
How is the overall kind of sentiment or sensibility around kind of large city, big tech companies, which I think have historically been very popular, and kind of the more distributed worldwide global things? Have you seen over the years you've been operating, have you seen kind of a shift or transition from kind of what people are looking for or what people are expecting, or sort of maybe how, I heard actually before that there was a strong family perception that the big tech companies are where it's at, and it's almost
That's right.
it's like considered a big risk to be involved with kind of these smaller, more global things. But I wonder, like, how is that shaking out? Is COVID changing that at all? Is it accelerating people's mind change around this? What's the state of the world there?
Absolutely. I think there's a big change with respect to the way people are looking at work. I think there's a fun story that one of the unicorn founders in India shared back then. I think it was Vijay sir who's founder of Paytm. That when he tried to hire somebody at his company back in the day, the guy did not accept the offer because he said, my parents are worried that I won't get married. because people won't recognize the brand. So yeah, there has been like historically a big bias towards brand, and that comes from like the root where people are more concerned about job security. But I think more and more people in last 5 years have got exposed to startups. In last 10 years, there are multiple 20 plus unicorns which have emerged out of India, and people feel a lot more, sort of confident about taking those risks with startups, right? I think somebody actually joined you saying no to Google, right? Like that is insane, and we did not expect that. But I think there are more and more people who are making those kind of decisions, and I think the risk appetite of people is, increasing.
I actually think that this is an area where you and Pesto can be a form of stability or security for people, because if we were just one startup, it's hard to necessarily know the future and connect to the next one if you need to. But if you are a platform of thousands of startups,
absolutely,
then it's easier for people to say, okay, like I can take this risk because it's actually not a risk. If there's ever something that goes wrong, we have a network of people and talent, and we have a global set of minds around that can connect us to the next thing. So that in a sense, there's a somewhat, it's probably not a very famous type of idea here even, but is spoken in certain circles, which is like the job security you have at a place like Google is actually much weaker than the job security you have if you're well networked among all of the startup stuff, because you can always find, there's always something new to be built. And if you sort of figure out the people networks where the ideas flow and you are kind of trusted and recognized within those, it's actually much more security than being kind of fully aligned with just, a single brand that might be recognizable, but otherwise has its own politics and processes and, decisions about what stays and what gets cut. So I thought it was actually almost like a anti-fragile idea that effectively, like, you and the pesto community create anti-fragility for kind of careers and future careers. I think is actually a very exciting idea, and an exciting future that you can help bring to the world.
Absolutely. I think I believe the same. Like, what I tell everyone is that, like, having confidence in your skills and constantly upgrading your skills is the biggest job security you can have, right? Because if you're a programmer in today's world and you're good at what you do, I would not worry about a job, especially if you have access, right? And one cool data point which we have is that we haven't had a single person who has been a graduate of Pesto who either left the job or was laid off for whatever reason during COVID, etc., did not find another job before their severance period was over.
Right.
Like,
amazing.
Within a week or two, every single person gets another job because they just grow so much during their time on the job that it's just incredible to, sort of work with them.
But don't discount, I mean, their skills are certainly valuable, but also the network that you provide is a big part of the value there, right?
100%.
It's the fact that,
absolutely.
If something goes wrong with whatever situation they're in, they can say, I use Pesto, like, let's connect. I want to learn about what else is out there.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Absolutely.
People network is actually, skills are one thing, but actually skills with no people network, it's really hard. Whereas
100%.
Great skills with great people network, now you have like the golden ticket, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I agree. Yeah.
So don't discount Pesto here. People networks really matter. I also think because, I think Pesto, it's early still, but I think you can grow as a trusted brand. And the more that people recognize, when I meet people through Pesto, they're super high quality, they're already vetted, they have a great process, then that brand from, a few hires early starts to help both sides simplify the transaction, right? Like partners that you work with, talent that you work with, they say, if as long as it's through Pesto, it's probably legit, probably interesting work, probably talented people around, and so it probably makes it more exciting for talent to connect through the network, and that also makes it more exciting. Like when partners, talk to other partners and say, like, we've had a really good experience with the people we've met through Pesto. Like both sides of that start to depend on you and Pesto for trust, right?
That's right.
Now people say, okay, we know that when we go there, we have a good experience. And it's the same reason that people open up a Coca-Cola, because they just they know what the experience is. They don't have to rethink it or understand if it's going to be exactly what they want. They just know, right? So I think that's ultimately that kind of trust and brand is the major opportunity that you can kind of serve to connect the world. I'm excited about Pesto.
Yeah, thanks, David, and thanks for everything you've done for us. And I think you're right about that. Like, I think our focus is also on that, like building trust, and that's why we have been cautious about scaling quality. And we have sort of always focused on that. But I think like with time, on both sides, it will happen. The predictability, I call it like Uberization of talent. Exactly what you're stepping into, and there is like a standard and a norm which you can expect with each person. And as the data points increase, it is only going to get better with time. So excited about that.
Yeah, that's great. Cool. Well, we have been on quite a long lunch break. I have yet to actually eat my proper lunch, so I might actually suggest we wrap for today. But we are here every day at noon, and we would love to have you come back.
Yeah,
I think Mishti's been making some highlights already.
Highlights. I'll post them on Twitter.
So we'll share some on Twitter.
Yeah.
Cool.
And come back, and we'll chat more and make more highlights.
That's awesome. 100%. I'll come hang out. We still have to chat about Tiny World.
Yeah.
So we'll chat about that next time. Yeah,
that'd be great. Let's do that.
Awesome. Okay. It's good seeing you both.
See you.
You too.
Good to see you.
Bye.
Okay.